What's up, everybody? So this is a short introduction on gold dots. So if you don't know already, I have an indicator for Nasdaq. This is a previous setup for Nasdaq, ES indices, whatever the proper English is. Basically, it's a momentum indicator uh, for that pairs with bias. So when the dots are all green, look for your back-tested setup to get long. If the dots are all red, look for your back-tested setup to get short. I like to use the dots to previous highs, previous lows, some obvious form of liquidity or target. So this video is not about indices, it's about gold. So this works on gold, um, minis, gold micros, and this is just a brief example. I think this was yesterday, Tuesday the 18th. So basically, the indicator is for New York session. I know that there might be some international people who might want to look into using it. I built them for New York session. So if you can trade it, great. If not, maybe backtest other time frames and see if it works for you. So one, so these are two separate potential entries. I'll show you again. I like to use dots momentum to previous highs. So you have London highs here. This is a 1 minute chart. You have Asia highs, previous day highs. So that kind of stuff. So basically, the market opens at 820, or the gold futures open at 820, and then that's when I basically start looking for setups. So there's one setup I like to use called the one dot entry function, which is just very simply, if the dots are all green, you're buying the first column of all green dots, the close of the first column, which is a 1 minute chart, and you're looking for, you know, previous highs in this case. So 46 to 51, that's 5 points. The ATR at the time is 4 points. I use this to help manage expectations for targets and, the appropriate wiggle room to make sure you don't get shaken out, or you get shaken out less frequently. So dots are green, and you can see a one dot entry function would have worked to this high, probably that high. So that's a pretty straightforward setup. And another potential entry. So again, dots are all green. So you're either long or looking for a backtested entry function. You could have moving averages. You could use fair value gaps. Whatever works for your method of trading. That's what I try to nail home in the room. Trading is a very individualistic thing. You have to trade instruments that align with how you like to see price action move. Some people are scalpers. I personally like to scalp. Some people like to swing trade. Some people like to hold for huge moves. I am just pretty efficient at getting just pieces of a move. So the dots help me with direction, with other confluences, and when I pair them with obvious targets like previous session highs, previous day highs, lows, etc., the narrative comes together, and I'm able to take some points, take some ticks out of the market, get content with what I get, shut it down if I have some losses, and just try to keep it pretty boring. So right now, so this with this setup, or this price action, so the dots are all green. So it's pretty simple. So you're either looking long, or not trying to short. So I went over the one dot entry function. You can see we get a nice move higher. Another way I like to enter trades for scalps is just basic price structure. So we have a low, we have a high, we have a higher low, we have a higher high, we have a higher low, we have a higher high. So I like to take these little these little moves off of retracements. So I like to look at the low that breaks a high, and then I'll draw a fib. I'll look for 40 to 60% of a retracement. If you don't get it, you just kind of go to the next measured move. If you have previous highs that you're drawing towards, draw on liquidity, is a proper way of putting it. So right here, again, I'm a scalper. It's just how I don't like holding for long periods of time. So I like to get pieces of the move. So dots, you're green, you're looking for long, you're not looking to short. You have this low that breaks this high. Just a little fib. And again, these might not seem like much. I'm looking for, so this was the low that breaks the high. You get a retracement to the 50 to 40 to 60% level. Price goes a little, but your failure level is here. So call it 5 points. So again, dots are bullish, and I know I'm getting like pretty down in the weeds, very micro level. Again, this is 1 minute chart. You can go lower on seconds charts, but dots are green, you're bullish. You have a low that breaks this high, so you're drawing a fib from here to here. You get a retracement. 50% is generally where I like to enter. So 66.2 to these highs, that's 4-5 points. Pretty good. And then you can see this low breaks this high. Again, we have price targets higher. If I knew how to get a magnet, I would get a magnet. So I like to have where price is drawing towards. So you have this low. This low that breaks this high. So you have a fib low to high. And again, I'm looking at this 38.2, 40% to 60% level. And this is the failure level. Price pushes down to the 50%, which is, like I said, generally where I like to get long. So, we have these highs on a micro level, which is target, call it number 1. And then again, we have levels we identified, from the previous session that are targets as well. So you can see this high gets taken. And then once again, so I call these measured moves. So low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This is the low that breaks the high. Not sure if we're going to get this or not. Close enough. So, the 38.2 trades. Okay, so dip to the failure level here. Doesn't take. There we go. So, and that previous high was taken right there. So price isn't always this clean, but hopefully that gives some kind of understanding of, you have, and then the dots flipped here, which I wasn't even paying attention to. But from here to here, for call it an hour worth of price action, we have a 1 dot entry function to previous highs here, and then once price starts displacing and blowing out, you take these little measured moves, kind of like stairs, to your liquidity previous targets. So those are 2 setups that I generally like to use. They work for me. So again, one was the 1 dot entry function, buying the close of the first column of all green dots. And having a draw on liquidity is imperative to that entry model. And then you have the measured moves. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives some somewhat of an idea of two of the ways I like to enter trades using gold dots. 7-day free trial, link in the bio. If you want to give them a shot. And I don't know how to edit these videos, so I'm still here. So let me just go to some setups that were from today. Leave. So today was kind of interesting. So I have a saying in the room that if the dots are mixed, do nothing. So you can see we had some pretty good measured moves, low, high, low that breaks to high, but dots are mixed, so I was doing nothing. So you can see right here, the dots turn all red, and price, we got a displacement below this low. So we have a high that breaks the low, red dots. You can see the 38.2 level trades, and then this high breaks the low, so no 50%. High that breaks the low. So right here, the 50% trades here. Price gets a little choppy, breaks the low. High that breaks the low. And, you can see what we're doing here. So high that breaks the low, high, low, retrace, and then we start displacing. So dots are mixed. You're doing nothing until 1050. Dots turn all red. I have alerts. You can set up alerts. If I can do this. So you can theoretically, if you want, if you have a job, day job, don't even look at your charts, and then, if the dots are all green, create. The dots all go red, create, and you can get an alert on your phone, iPad, whatever. Oh, something just happened. Something's going on. Yeah. So again, when the dots turn all red, that's where you're looking to take action. So the dots are very helpful for when to avoid chop and when to kind of be alert and when to look for your setup. So 1-dot entry functions, these 50% measured moves, those are setups that I like. But the dots aren't they're not a holy grail, but if you're struggling with knowing where and when to trade, the dots can certainly be helpful with bias for sure, as it's a momentum based indicator. Yeah. So hope that helps. I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I wanted to do a little introduction to gold dots. They're separate from the index dots. If they're helpful, use them. If not, don't. No big deal. No big deal at all. But some people are finding some success with the dots, which is awesome, which is why I share them. Yeah. So 7-day free trial, link in the bio. Feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you.